When Chase started talking about launching a credit card here in the UK, a lot of people, including myself, had their hopes up that we're gonna get another major player alongside Amex and Barclaycard that would offer rewards on credit card spending. However, the credit card that Chase is testing with a limited number of customers in the UK at the moment offers exactly nothing in the way of cashback, points, or any other kind of rewards. That is not to say though that it's a bad product. In fact, I've had the Chase credit card since February 2025, and in today's video we're gonna talk about the pros of this card, who it might be suitable for, why it didn't meet a lot of people's expectations in terms of rewards, and whether or not that could change in the future. So if that sounds interesting, make yourselves comfortable and let's dive in. So like I said, the Chase credit card is currently only available to a limited number of customers. If I understand correctly, they're only offering it to the members of the so-called Chase community. For example, I got my invitation to apply back in 2024 towards the end of the year, and it's actually quite a straightforward process. You go on the app, you do the quick eligibility check, and they show you the rough terms under which you are likely to be approved, including your credit limit. If you do decide to go ahead and apply, that's going to take another couple of minutes, while this time they do a hard check on your credit file. And if you are approved, the card is available immediately within the app, and you can add it to Apple Pay or Google Pay and start using it right away. And it's honestly a feature I wish more credit card issuers in the UK had. And then the physical card itself will arrive a few days later in the mail, and here is actually what it looks like. I still haven't unpacked it, even though it's been like a few months now, and I've been mostly relying on the virtual version that I have in my Google Wallet. Anyway, what does this card offer in terms of features? Well, not a lot actually. First of all, it's a free credit card, so there is no annual fee. There is also no fee for foreign transactions, so it's potentially a good card to use abroad. There is also the clean and convenient Chase app with integration with TransUnion, so you can check your credit history relatively quickly and easily, so it removes a little bit of the friction there. And well, I kind of feel like I'm grasping at straws here because the card doesn't offer any kind of cashback or points, which is what I usually focus on when I review credit cards on this channel. However, Chase does have one feature on this card, which is actually the reason why I applied for it in the first place, and that is the 0% interest offer on purchases for the first 18 months, which basically means that you don't have to pay any interest on your balance for the first 1.5 years, as long as you make the minimum payment every single month and on time. To put this in a more practical context, if you have a large purchase coming up, you can use your Chase credit card to pay for that purchase, and then the money that you were originally going to use on it, you could put into, say, a savings account, and for the next 18 months, you're going to keep getting interest on that money, while Chase is essentially giving you an interest-free loan for 1.5 years. There are, of course, a couple of things to be careful about here. First of all, do make sure you always make your minimum payment on time. In this case, it's going to be calculated as 2.5% of your outstanding balance. And again, this is not interest. It is going to go towards paying off your balance. And if you miss your minimum payment on any given month, then your interest-free period is going to end immediately. And secondly, if the large purchase that you're planning to make is close to your credit limit, you might suddenly end up with a high credit utilization ratio. Basically, credit utilization ratio is how much of your credit limit that is available to you across all of your credit cards you are currently using. So for example, if you just have a single credit card with a limit of £10,000 and you use it to buy something that costs £9,000, your credit utilization ratio is suddenly 90%, which is completely fine in the short term if you are paying off your entire credit card bill at the end of the month, which is what everyone should be doing. But if in this case you are taking advantage of the 0% 18-month offer, then it means for the next 1.5 years, you're going to be stuck with a utilization ratio close to 90%. And lenders, when they look at your credit history, do not particularly like to see something like that. So just keep in mind if in the near term you're planning to apply for any other kind of credit, such as a mortgage. And to give you a personal example, the reason I applied for the Chase credit card back in February is because I was planning to buy a car. I basically had the money for the entire purchase set aside, and I was just going to buy it with, a bank transfer. But then I discovered that the dealership I was going to buy from actually accepted credit cards, and that is why I decided to get the Chase one. And buying a car with a credit card is still a bit of a special case, so the dealer did charge me 2% commission for the privilege of paying via credit card, but I still considered it to be a good deal because in exchange I'm basically getting a interest-free loan for the next 1.5 years. So I took the money that I had originally earmarked for the car and just put it all into my investment account. And now every month I just make sure to pay off the minimum amount on my Chase credit card, and then I'm gonna pay off the rest of the balance when the interest-free period runs out in August of 2026. The credit utilization issue I didn't really consider to be a problem in my case because the Chase credit card only represented a fraction of the credit limit that I had available to me across the different credit cards. So while that is the reason that I personally got the Chase credit card, who is actually this card a good fit for? Because when Chase was launching it, with 0 rewards, I add quietly, they must have had some kind of audience in mind. Well, last year in 2024, the CEO of Chase UK gave an interview where they kind of addressed 2 points around this upcoming credit card launch while not admitting directly that they are going to be launching a credit card. First of all, they said that they understand that a lot of customers expect Chase to launch something similar to the Sapphire lineup that they have in the US, which offers pretty awesome rewards, again in the US, but they ultimately feel like that their existing debit card, which offers a 1% cashback on certain categories of spend and which is quite generous by UK standards, that is already addressing the need of rewards on your card. And for the credit card launch, if they were to launch one, they would focus on customers' borrowing need with a borrowing oriented credit card, and in that context the 0% offer for 18 months kinda makes perfect sense. I guess what they didn't spell out explicitly but is kinda obvious is that launching something like Sapphire here in the UK would not be economically viable. First of all, because of the low cap on what they can charge in terms of interchange fees, and secondly, the fact that Chase hasn't yet broken profit in the UK. When they launched here originally in 2021, they were offering a market-leading interest rate on their savings account and also a debit card with 1% cashback on all of your spending, which had been unheard of up till then, and that actually led to there being a wait list of customers who wanted to bank with them. And since 2021, this UK expansion venture has been a loss generating thing for them, and I'm sure they knew about it going in, and this must have been part of their strategy to kind of get a slice of the market. But like any business, Chase is of course looking for profitability, and in fact they're hoping to become profitable in the UK in 2025. And in recent times we've been seeing them kind of roll back a little bit those incentives that they originally used to lure customers in. For example, the interest rate on their savings account has been consistently lagging behind the competition, and then they restricted the cashback offering on their debit card to just certain categories of spend, and there is also a £15 per month limit on that cashback. So while I think that we are very unlikely to see any kind of reversal in this trend in the near-term future, even medium-term future, I am hopeful that as and if Chase breaks profit in the UK and as they expand further, they may revisit this question of rewards on their credit cards. In the meantime though, their credit card, which to be fair still hasn't widely launched and is only being offered to a limited number of customers as of recording this video in May 2025, I think it's still a solid product for a lot of people, either for those who are not primarily looking at rewards for when it comes to credit cards, or for those who have multiple cards, each of which suits its own use case. And also the fact that this credit card is quite simple, it doesn't have at least a formal minimum income requirement to qualify for it. It also doesn't seem to have a minimum length of time that you need to have been a resident in the UK before applying. All of this together, and also the fact that there is an integration in the Chase app with TransUnion to check your credit history, could potentially also make it a not bad beginner card. And by the way, if you are interested in beginner credit cards, here is a video where I talk about the best beginner cards in the UK, and here is one where I talk about best cashback cards in the UK. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.